Welcome to the Audio Fundamentals class. My name is Dr. Rena Walzinger, and I'm excited to be your instructor for this course. You can find me also at runzonemusic.com or rena.com, where you can see some of my videos and the work that I do in the business. I've been a business owner and studio engineer for many years, as well as an instructor in higher education. I have a doctorate in higher education leadership, and I'm also a bass guitar player, a vocalist, and a clarinetist. Also, you can see some fun I have at Comic-Con. There's some picture of me photoshopped up by one of my friends. I'm excited to hear about you. So in our first discussion, I'll be asking you about your interest in recording. I'm particularly interested in your past experience, if you're a musician, if not, what you're interested in learning, any gear that you've used, and applications that you're interested in, film, video games, things like that. Make sure that you read the syllabus for this course, as there are expectations required weekly. You can see the list here: readings, videos, assignments, the discussion board, and there may be quizzes and portfolio items as well. So let's get right into learning some things about recording. One of the things that I was excited about getting started in recording is building my own studio, which has become very affordable and the most prevalent way that recording happens today in the world because of that. So the recording studio, we'll go over the personal recording studio first. Can be anything from an iPhone or an iPad to a little recording device, to a laptop and some equipment plugged into it, or a permanent station like an iMac or a PC computer plugged into an analog to digital converter. Most folks have headphones, monitors so you can listen back to the music, an analog to digital converter, microphones, and cables. It varies basically depending on what you're trying to record, how many people you're trying to record at the same time, the quality you need, and your clients. Commercial studio, on the other hand, is usually a larger studio that's quite a bit more expensive, designed for attaining a certain sound. Common studio would be for film scoring, where you have an entire orchestra in there. Recording a score with a director, and they're using a lot of microphones, a lot of musicians, and you have a large room for the engineer and with a console or a mixing board and other personnel that are listening on the other side. The construction of commercial studios versus personal studios is of course very different, but the main thing in the construction is to make sure that the sound is not coming in from the outside, and make sure inside that the sound is not bouncing from wall to wall, because the recordings will not come out correctly. That's why you see things like sound panels or things called bass traps, so that sound does not cancel itself out. We'll be learning about that in this course. Another thing I put down here for commercial studios is ADR, or automatic dialogue replacement. That happens when you have dialogue on a script that needs to be replaced due to sounds coming in or other issues, or maybe you're just running around and you need to put that dialogue in later. That can be a small studio, and that's an area where a lot of my former students have worked, because you can build a small studio and have actors in to do that work. So you have the two spaces. One is the tracking room, where the musicians are, singers, whoever's doing the recording, and then the other side, the control room, where you're in there doing the engineering, working on the mix, listening back to what's being recorded. And finally, music doesn't go anywhere without marketing. So we're going to learn about different ways to market music in the digital world, especially with most people streaming music now, although vinyl's coming back. But marketing and copyright law are very important. And as long as I'm talking about copyright law, I wanted to quickly show you a website, copyright.gov. And in copyright.gov, they have a thing called the ecosystem, Electronic Copyright Office, where You can copyright all kinds of arts. So we're looking at, you can see on the screen here, for this we're looking at motion pictures, other digital content, performing arts, visual arts. For a lot of the things that we're doing in this class, it would be performing arts, music, lyrics, sound recording, scripts, and stage plays. And once you click on that, it takes you to the proper form. You'll be uploading a file and filling out your information, including who wrote the material, words and lyrics, and just personal information. The reason this is important is because you cannot get paid in this industry on public music without owning the copyright as a songwriter or producer. So copyright.gov is a really important site. The recording process, there's three main processes. The recording, where you're setting up the microphone, setting up whoever's recording, the personnel, making sure that you have everybody in the space where you want them, microphone placement, all of that, headphone mixes. So you're recording something, and then overdubbing would be adding parts to that recording. So maybe you're adding a solo or something like that. And then mix down, where you take all those elements, all those tracks, and mix it into one project. Once you do that, you'll be doing the final two things, mastering. So taking that song and basically you'll learn about mastering tools so that you can control the volume, any other things to make it sound good for broadcast or radio. And then finally, marketing. So one of the things, and the thing that attracted me to recording first, was doing my own album and not needing to be in a large studio with the hourly rate. And so I started to research gear, and that's one of the things that are good to learn while you're taking a class like this, what kind of gear that you need and what type of projects you want to work on. Now, most of my students have started with a laptop and buying some type of analog to digital device that you plug into your laptop. I like several companies, but I use some devices from Mark of the Unicorn or Motu that I can plug microphones in, and then I can plug headphones in and record several people at the same time. Pro Tools has the M boxes. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. I would recommend looking at, for example, sweetwater.com, so you can see different kinds of gear. It's very flexible because you can have a portable studio, bring that wherever you need to, or you can make it more permanent and pretty low in cost. Also, as far as project studios, you're going to need to learn a lot about digital marketing, multimedia in the web, getting your music onto streaming services or for sale in, for example, the iTunes store, so that you can get your music out there. Finally, let's talk about the audio engineer. There are several types of jobs in this arena that you can do once you learn about sound. There's the artist, of course, being the musician, arranging the music. You can be producing, for example, bringing everybody in, selecting the songs, focusing on the project, financing it. You could be the engineer, which is the main thing in this course, which is understanding the technology behind recording, translating what the artist wants to record into a product, placing the musicians' microphones in the proper place, picking the right types of microphones, setting the balances in the recording, capturing the performance, doing the overdubs or additional music parts, mixing the project into a master recording, and archiving and storing the project. So a lot about data wrangling. You can be an assistant engineer, which would be, they might be helping with microphones, headphone setup, moving stands around, helping musicians with things. You can be a maintenance engineer, which is about upkeeping equipment. A mastering engineer, which is really its own job, where You're mastering the final recording project for basically for sale or for streaming or for whatever output you need. There's also DJing and VJing, where you're working with audio and video live or on the web, and studio management jobs. There's a lot of work as far as management, booking people, and administration. And then there's, of course, music law, where there's entertainment lawyers, and there's organizations like the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, ASCAP, or BMI, where they will look at the music being played and then pay royalties to the artist and the producers. So there's a lot of jobs related to this course. I put a site. There are several sites, but on job outlooks, you can look at careeronestop.org, and I listed a couple of the jobs there: multimedia and sound technician. You can see the jobs how many jobs are available in the area, and the salary ranges. Next thing I want to do is introduce Pro Tools first. So, starting from scratch, I went to the bottom of my computer and brought up Pro Tools first. I went File, Create New, and created a new project. I can also open an existing project. The one thing is, there are 3 projects that you may store in Pro Tools first, so be aware of that. If you need to delete something, you can go on the Open tab, click the arrow, and delete something. There's a delete option there. Okay, so I already have a new project up, and what I want to do is introduce you to kind of the interface of Pro Tools and how to use it. So the menu we're going to concentrate on today, the main one is File menu. So we did Create New. We could open an existing project, for example, as well. And then we're going to open some new tracks. But in order to, let's go back. I'd like to actually import tracks. So I'm going to hit File, Import. And in this lesson, you should have downloaded something called Pinder Brothers. In that file, there are 5 pieces of audio. I'm going to highlight them all and open those. And what Pro Tools is going to do now is make a track for each of those items and actually name them the same thing that were named in the folder. So I can show you on my computer here. It doesn't matter whether you're on Mac or PC, you can do the same thing. I have, make this bigger, these files. I can listen to them on any device here.
Let's jump overboard.
So I can just listen to them on my computer.
Let's jump overboard.
So they're all parts of the song. So the mix is basically everything together, and then each stem is individual parts. So what I did here on Pro Tools, I hit File, Import, imported those into Pro Tools, and it made 5 tracks. If I want to listen to just the entire mix, I can solo that with the S button. And if you hover around there, you'll see it says solo.
Let's jump overboard. Let's jump ship and swim.
Now, to play and stop the track, you can use play and stop at the top, or you can use the space bar. Now, what I'm going to do is mute that, and then just listen to the other 4 stems.
Let's jump overboard. Let's jump ship and...
If I want to listen to just one of those stems, I'll listen to stem 1. Let's solo that.
Let's jump overboard. Let's jump ship and swim.
So you can hear that's a male vocal. So usually I'll type box 1 male, meaning male vocal. And I just double clicked on the white bar and did that. Now let's solo stem 2. So I needed to unsolo the other one. And that's guitar. So sideman guitar. Or rhythm guitar. Stem 3 is bass guitar, and stem 4 drums. So basically I want you to get used to the solo and mute buttons and understand the difference. So mute turns tracks off, solo turns a track on. You can solo or mute as many as you want at a time. So try to get used to that. So we've learned file, create new. We've learned to import, file import. We could add tracks. We're not going to do that in this lesson, but you can add new tracks. We'll do that later. And I think that is all that we need to learn for this lesson. One thing is that in setup, if you're having any issues with playing back something, there is a hardware and a playback engine setup. In this case, I'm just using everything that's built into my computer, so there's really nothing to set up. This comes into play more when you have external devices plugged in. And setup playback engine is, I'm using the Pro Tools playback engine, which you should be doing as well. So there's really nothing in that menu that you should have to set up for this course. And that is our introduction to Pro Tools first.